How's it going, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Movie Reviews You Didn't Ask For. And today we are going to review the 2017 Icelandic horror thriller, I Remember You. Directed by Oscar Thor Axelsson. So first, I want to start off by saying I was pleasantly surprised by this movie. It brought something new to the table. Well, not exactly new, but just something I haven't seen in a horror film in quite a while. And that is the practical and good use of having two different plot lines happening at the same time, tying in at the end of the film, and it not feel like something they just put together at the last second or feel like they had to scrap the ending and make a new one. So the movie opens with us following a doctor who's helping local police with a suicide in a church. The church appears ransacked and there's some graffiti on the wall. And we find out that the doctor has a troubled past. There's a unsolved missing persons case involving his son, Benny. And that is kind of like the linchpin of this film. So when the autopsy on the body of the old woman is completed, they find that there are crosses carved into her back. And after ruling out domestic abuse, we find out that it is linked to a missing person from decades earlier named Bernotis, a child. And the link is made because the kid has had crosses carved on his back, and it was reported. And they were made by his father, who was a religious fanatic, and blamed him for the death of his mother, when she died, giving birth to him. So dots are connected, and we find out that she was one of the apparent bullies of Bernotis when he was in school before he went missing. They find a class picture where there are 8 children whose faces are scratched out. And later we find out that 6 of those 8 children died mysterious or accidental deaths as adults, not as kids. So the deaths are occurring many decades later. And through this investigation, and while everything is going on, we see that the doctor Freyr is having visions and beginning to have his own paranormal experiences, some involving the young boy Bernotis. Now cut to plot 2, which we see happening at the same time this investigation is happening. We follow a trio of people who are leaving the city and moving to a small abandoned city to renovate an old house into a bed and breakfast. And our main character during this plot line, Katrin, we see having her share of paranormal events as well. And she also has a troubled past, and her relationship with her husband, Gorar, is on the rocks to their child being stillborn months earlier. So upon adventuring and exploring the house, Katrin finds herself in the cellar where she finds a body, the child Bernotis. And we see that he's holding a picture of his mother, who looks oddly similar to Katrin. And then there's a great scare scene in here, and it was pretty well shot. It's one of the better scare scenes in this film, and it caught me off guard. So Katrin tells everyone else that there's a body down there, and upon investigation, they leave the house and they move into another close by abandoned house. Cut back to Dr. Freyr. He's still having his own paranormal events, and he's just completely obsessed with this case now, because it kind of sparks and ignites a flame for him because of his own case with his son. So he's doing all this kinds of research, and then he ends up going back to Benny's friend, and he said that the last time he was seen that Benny was seen in a green submarine. So as Freyr and Dagny continue the investigation and try to find the other 2 of the 8 people that were Bernotis' bullies in school, the 7th bully is found dead after an apparent suicide attempt. And upon investigation of the house, he goes upstairs and sees a room, and this scene is well done. The music that's playing in the background, the facial expressions of the actor, it was really good, and you could really feel the weight of what was happening. And what is happening is that Freyr finds just like a wall in a room full of newspaper clippings about his son's disappearance. And of course, it brings just more questions as to who this person is and why he's so obsessed with his son's disappearance. And so now the 2 go into a nursing home where they find the 8th bully named Ursula, and she is suffering from schizophrenia. So during the questioning and just trying to get any information out of her, Ursula tells Freyr that Benny is at the bottom of somewhere green, and as you can imagine, he kind of gets flustered and heated by this, because of course he can't get any more information out of her. So now we cut back to the trio who are in the abandoned city, and Katrin learns that her husband and her best friend were having an affair, and leaves her feeling pretty bad. And through this, there's we find out that her husband or Gorar and Leaf are still very much in love. And then while Katrin is away, they were planning on abandoning her and going back to the city. So as they're talking everything over, you just get like a rock flying through the window, which I guess kind of counts as a jump scare, because it'll make you jump, because you're really not expecting it. It just comes out of nowhere. So they look out the window and they see this kid running away. So they get out the house and they go chase him down to like what it looks like a whale house or something. And then they find Bernotis's ghost inside. Ooh, scary scene. So then the chimney collapses on them as they're both trying to run out of the house, and kills them both. Or does it? Moments later, Katrin finds them, and of course Gorar is dead, and she finds Leaf, who is dying. And so she tells her that she's gonna go get help, and she grabs her cell phone and runs to the hill to try to get some reception and call for help. And then while she's up there trying to get reception, she hears a little message ting, and that's how she finds out that Gorar and Leaf were still talking even through everything all this time, and that Leaf was pregnant. And this too is another scene where the actor or actress really pulled it into the film, because you can see the betrayal on her face, and then you can definitely see and you can feel where she's just like, okay, this person's gonna die. And then we see her drop the phone and walk back down there. And in all this pain and devastation, she goes back into the house and crawls into the cellar and lays down next to the corpse of Bernotis. Going back to Freyr, we see him tossing and turning and unable to sleep, so he decides to go for it. And while on a jog, he sees the ghost of Bernotis and starts to chase after him. And it leads him to like a broke down, abandoned little boat, which is like right in the middle of the city, which is weird to me, but I guess it might be a common thing in Iceland. And we see that inside that little boat is Ursula, where she confesses to Freyr that she was the last one to see Bernotis before he went missing. And we have a flashback moment of where the kids are chasing Bernotis, and he hides in a little boat, like a fishing boat. As it's leaving the pier, she sees him just kind of ducked down, hiding under a canvas, and she's never told anyone. And we follow the story as Bernotis gets off of the boat and arrives at the abandoned city, and we see the house, a house that is the one the trio were trying to fix up into a bed and breakfast. See him go in, find a picture of his mother, rip it in half, takes the picture, and goes and lays down in the cellar and dies. And during this, we get another kind of cutscene of where Benny's friend is drawing a green submarine, and we find out that he gave it to his mother, and that the mother sent it to the police. So it goes to Officer Dagny, and in an epiphany moment, she realizes that what the kid was seeing was not a submarine, it was a septic tank. So they look back at so Officer Dagny and Freyr look back at the old gas station footage where his son was last seen. And as we're watching the footage, we see that he goes in a store, he comes out, and then right out after him, we see the trio. We see Katrin, Gorar, and Leaf. And then for me, this was kind of like a what the hell moment. I was like, what? Because the thing connecting the two cases were that Gorar and Leaf's bodies were discovered, and we see like the accident pictures. And as the gas station footage continues, we see that the trio had a septic tank that they were taking with them when they were going to renovate the house. And obviously it is revealed that the trio's plot line took place years earlier during Freyr's son's disappearance. So Dagny and Freyr go to the abandoned island with like a CSI team. They find the septic tank. So with this scene, there's a build-up and kind of a crescendo of emotions, because you know that though devastated, Freyr is happy because he can finally have closure and has found his missing son. And as everyone leaves the island and Benny's body is taken away, there's a look back at the house, and you can see Katrin's ghost standing in the window, and it's her and Bernodis holding hands, and they're watching everyone leave. Overall, it was a pretty decent movie. I appreciate that there wasn't a lot of exposition put out by the characters. It was something that you had to put together in your mind by the events taking place. I also think that this movie would have been a good movie by itself as a mystery thriller, that it didn't have to be a horror film. It didn't need that supernatural little tick on it, that it would have been great as a standalone film, a nice mystery. I would say that this movie is not one for everyone because it is a very slow-paced movie and there aren't a lot of action or exciting sequences. But if you enjoy a picturesque scenery or subtle dramatic inflections, then it'll be the film for you. And though the film delivers a powerful lead role and an array of supporting actors, I'm gonna have to give this film a 7 out of 10. So I just want to say thanks to everyone for listening to this long review. Sorry about that. I try to make it shorter in the future. And join us next time, where we will review 2016's The Void. Later.